All right, good morning. I am here with a very special guest this week for this week's Evolutionary Mama conversation. Amber Richards. I will take a moment and I'll let her introduce herself a little bit, but she's someone that's near and dear to my heart. Amber Richards is an Akashic Women's Guide. She's also a yoga instructor and an Ayurvedic coach. So I have watched her really deepen into her sacred path this year in a very devotional and loving and committed way. And it's been really inspiring to watch. And so I wanted to invite her on for a conversation around kind of like the real challenges, the beauty and the wisdom of what it means to birth the next expression of our sacred work in the world. It's one of those things too. I was chatting with Amber the other day and we've spent, a good, 9 months journeying together. And I love to journey with my women deeply through this rebirth process. But we're in this intimate place and we're talking about, the challenges and the breakthroughs and the beauty of the journey. And it felt so inspiring for both of us to be able to share this conversation to other women who may be feeling that call to bring forward more of their authenticity and more of their sacred work into the world. So welcome, Amber. Is there kind of
Thank
anything
you.
else? Yeah. Anything else you kind of want to share about your work in the world that I might have missed?
No, thank you for sharing. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. And yeah,
Awesome.
very happy.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, one of the places that I love to drop into, and we were kind of chatting about this too, that there's so many points, pivotal points on the path when we're, walking our authentic path as women. But in terms of kind of like where your sacred work really started to open up in the world, or your sacred path really started to present itself, where did that journey begin for you?
Well, we were chatting earlier, and I said, it could really go as far back as when I was a little girl, and just, opening up through imagination and play. But I guess
Mhm.
when it really hit me was when I had started to notice dis-ease in my own body,
Mhm.
and I had been kind of unhappy in my life as it was, and just in my relationships, my relationship to myself. I was a new mom. I was trying to find my way in the world. Um, but I started like suffering with actual physical symptoms. And I would go to the doctor and he would say, he would kind of brush it off. It was very dismissive
Mhm.
and painful because I know in my own experience that this is happening in my body. And you
Mhm.
are telling me that it's nothing. And it started to progress. And um, it was through a meditation that, I mean, it sounds very esoteric, but through a meditation that I was told that I could heal myself. And it was so powerful that I believed it. Like it was outside of myself, like this message coming in through the divine, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, and so I listened and I started on that journey from that day. And at that point, I had already been on the path to opening up my studio, and there was some other things happening but prior to that. But this, I'd say, was the moment that I'm like, I know I can heal myself. And so when I began to heal myself and go through that journey, I recognized that this is something I could share with others, you
Oh,
know.
beautiful. So what did you weave in? Like what were some of the foundational pieces that really supported that like healing?
It really started, I suppose, with just like self inquiry, like
Hmm,
asking,
that's
like,
cool.
what's going on in my body right now and why, and what is it related to, and starting to like, what am I eating? And so I guess it all really does kind of begin with food and the nervous system, really, at the end of the
Hmm.
day, and how the nervous system is when you're digesting your food and eating. And so, but I stumbled upon Ayurveda through my teacher training prior to this happening. And I knew that there was something there for me. And then I did join Shakti School, which has been so transformative for me. I've fully embodied the tools, and a lot of those tools are based around food, sleep,
Yeah.
and vital energy, right? And just really caring for your energy. And I think as soon as you start to open up to those things, like everything starts to move towards
Mm-hmm.
to that journey. And
Ooh, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, we've talked a few times. Well, I just love your passion for food, like, and connection, and like just
like
like how it connects. Yeah, exactly. And
my
how, and like
prune
how,
smoothie.
yeah, and like how like infused with love it is, and how that connects you like to people and to family. And I just love how you like always we've and you've shared with me, and I've seen on my own journey too how healing food is. Like we forget
Yeah.
sometimes that just consistent like nutrient dense food can be so healing on so many levels. So I
Mhm.
just I just love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, well, let's talk a little bit about, I know, something that's interesting about the scope of, our journey together is, and sometimes this happens, but we were chatting about this the other day, how it was like a couple years ago when you kind of first came into my world, right? And we chatted about like working together, and it was a little bit like, for whatever reason, it just wasn't the right time. And then about a year ago, we started to chat about, what it would be like to step into a container. I'm just curious if you could speak to like a little bit of like, and maybe it was timing, or maybe there were some other elements going on. I don't know that we got that far, but just out of curiosity, what was showing up for you like through that process? And, where were you at when you stepped into my world? And we'll just travel from there, because I know there's been like a lot of really exciting shifts that have opened up since then. But yeah.
Mhm. Well, when we first chatted, that was 3 years ago. And it was just as I was joining Shakti School.
Oh, wow.
And so there was, I knew and I felt I could feel it. Like I could feel it in my soul, in my whole entire body, that I wanted to work with
Hmm.
you, and that at some point it would happen. And you were working with
Yeah.
Lara at the time, my good
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
And so watching her transform and evolve with, in your container with you, with that guidance, and
Mhm.
that was really beautiful to watch. So but continued on my journey through Shakti School. And then I got to a point where I was like, I don't know. I was talking to Lara and I said, I just feel so lost. Like I've got Shakti School, I've got the studio, I've got a whole team, I've got my own healing. I'm a mom, I'm struggling with that. Like I just felt like
Yeah.
it was a
Mhm.
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Yes, I
a
remember
lot.
that actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
You being like, whoo, like
I
I've
was so overwhelmed,
I'm
and
creating a lot right now. Yeah. And holding a
yeah,
lot right now.
but
Yeah.
not even really knowing. And I didn't feel safe enough to like just trust, I wasn't,
Hmm.
who had me? Like that's what I kept saying, like who that
Hmm.
has me, like
Hmm.
holding space for
Totally.
people. I'm creating these, and then I'm like, okay, I've got me. But at some point you need someone to hold space for you. You need someone
Hmm.
to just like hold that torch for you. And
Hmm.
Lara said to me, she's like, why don't you talk to Tara? And I was like, yeah, I'm totally gonna talk to Tara.
Right.
Gonna do it.
I could revisit that.
It's time. And then I reached out, and it felt so perfect because I was just on that edge of like, what is next? Like, what is going to happen with Tilly Rose? Because I knew it was Tilly Rose as I was opening up like through Shakti School. I knew I was going to call my business Tilly Rose, and but I have no idea. I had no idea what it was going to look like, and how
Yeah.
Akashic could fuse in to that so
Mm,
beautifully. Like, and I
yeah.
know that's why it didn't work for us to work together earlier on.
Right.
I knew it, like we could feel it, but it was
Yeah.
like there needed to be some things.
Yeah. Some things to line up. Yeah. It was a really good time. for you to step in. And that's very often the case when women find my work, is that they're on the edge of the next expression of their soul's calling
Yeah.
and birthing their sacred work. For me, through when I journey with women, there's often like the physical birth of something, which often means like a new program, a book, something physical, right? Or a new business. So for you, it was Tilly Rose. And for those that might not know what Tilly Rose is this beautiful, well, I'll get you to explain it, but I've just seen the process come together, and Amber has just kind of woven into the fabric of this business just so many delicious layers to support women in their healing and empowerment journey. And just watching it come together as the extension of her beauty, of her truth, of her wisdom has been, well, it's totally lit me up. But why don't you share a little bit about Tilly Rose, and for anyone who'd like to go, take a peek at what Amber's up to in the world, we're going to make sure that we leave the website URL up for you. This website's so gorgeous, and you can really feel Amber's heart in it. But yeah, share with us a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tilly Rose is an extension of my journey, as you said, but also my healing, right? And so all of the things that I found supportive in terms of healing through Ayurveda, through the lens of Ayurveda, and really as I bring it forth, I'm making it accessible to the modern woman, essentially, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we change, and Ayurveda was actually designed to change with us. It evolves with us through time, right? And so it should be accessible, and it is. And so yes, I weave in, the aspects of, nutrition and love practices, rituals, like that tantric aspect of like you with you and you with everything else. And once we get good with ourselves, then we can really start to nourish the relationships outside of ourselves. And it's a it's a process of really shedding layers of
Mm-hmm.
trauma and just cleansing the body, on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why when we weave in the Akashic, it's just so like it's that vital energy piece, right?
Yeah.
But it cleanses as well at the level of the body. It's so powerful. And
Yeah, it's so neat just to see how you've woven the Akashic records into your work. Like it fits so beautifully. It always does, but it's just with the Ayurvedic medicine and the yoga and like the tantric foundation and the Akashic record, it all came together just
I
like
know.
so
And I
beautifully.
didn't know that. That's the thing. That's the thing that was really cool, was that like we started working together. We did a 4-month together,
Yeah.
and then we did the 9. And when I did the 9 months, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do the certification as well. And
Yeah.
then like I didn't this wasn't planned,
Right.
but it was very much divinely inspired,
Yes.
and a co-creation between us and God,
Yeah.
like I believe,
Yeah.
like it was really
Totally.
cool. And
Yes.
Tilly Rose is
Yes.
my great great grandmother. So she was a Métis woman. She lived a very diversified life. She was a midwife, a healer, and
Mm.
just a really strong woman. Like I have this picture that my dad gave me of her, and she is very like stoic but like powerful, and
Mm.
just it's so I really I was just inspired to use her name because she inspires healing in our lineage, so yeah. Yeah,
It's been beautiful to weave, I've heard, bits and pieces about your grandmother, great grandmother,
great great. So
great
my
great
great
grandmother.
grandmother wrote a book about living in a residential school, and her mother was Tilly Rose. So
Mm. Yeah, and it's been amazing, and just kind of some strands that have come through in the Akashic records. But what I love about everything that you're talking about, that we're talking about right now, is this truly is like the evolutionary mama like path. It's
mhm.
really, yeah, it's really about carrying the healing work forward, carrying the sacred work forward, carrying, kind of aspects of who our grandmothers couldn't be, and through that finding freedom for ourselves and our lineage, and how our sacred work in the world gets to play into that. So just as I was talking to you, I'm like, yes, like that is like so what it's about. So thank you.
Mhm.
And yeah, I love that. So is there anything more you wanted to share about Tilly Rose? Because that's how the name came, right?
Right, that's how the name
Yeah.
came. Yeah, no, I think that highlights Tilly Rose really nicely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Beautiful. Do
new
you want
like
to share the link here, but I'm going to keep it in the show notes, but yeah, just because it's an easy one, right? Like it's
yeah, it's tillyrose.com.
okay, yeah, see, that's great.
Yeah.
There you go. It's
Really
super
easy.
easy.
And I'm on Instagram as Tilly Rose Ayurveda.
Okay, beautiful. And it's Tilly, right?
No,
Okay, spell it.
Tillie. Tilly Rose, yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, what has this journey meant to you as a mother? Can you share anything about that?
Oh.
I know. And I mean, that's I find very often I am a mother. And then, one of the reasons I've kind of shifted a little bit in terms of my messaging around this like evolutionary mama is that I looked around and I was like, I've been supporting mothers for a long time to
Mhm.
take up more space with their beauty, truth, power, prosperity, and their sacred work in the world. And I love supporting mothers because I do believe that when it comes to, this deep level of healing and showing up in the fullness of more of the woman that we were born to be, it affects the family matrix. And there's shifts that uniquely need and want to happen for the mama. And it can be tricky to do alone. And especially it depends on like what age our children are at.
Yeah.
And me and you, we both have, you and I, we both have daughters around the age of 13. So, it's been kind of nice to be able to go back and forth. And I learned so much through supporting mothers with the Akashic records and just my understanding of relationship dynamics. So, anyways, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, uh, it is the most beautiful thing and also the most challenging thing I've ever done
right.
to be
Yeah.
a mother. And I've learned so much about myself through the process, but also I think you know, what was it, the solstice transmission that you had done, that journaling and the sacred journey that we took together
Yeah.
through the
Mm-hmm.
solstice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something came up that it really hit home where like I wasn't emotionally available for her.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. Like I forgive, I
Yeah.
cry just thinking about it because I feel like I wasn't available because my mom
Yeah.
likely wasn't,
Yeah.
and the relationship I was in was a little bit toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
so it just I wasn't there for her in the way that I know I can be now.
Yeah.
And so, it's a slow shift though, right? Like
Yeah.
it's a slow shift into a new way of showing up because she's already in a certain way in her nervous system around me, and
Mm-hmm.
so trying to just show up differently, these new awarenesses around like, okay, like here's what we've done in the past and here's a new way of showing up. So
Yes.
it's shifting, it really is. And it's really beautiful, and I know that it takes time, but it's like I want this relationship with my daughter now. It's like
Yeah.
it's a challenging time as it is when she's 14 years old and trying to find
Absolutely.
disassociate from everything. She wants to be nothing like me, but I'm like so cool.
Yeah, I
You're
know.
like, I'm like
I
really,
hear
you're
you.
super rad. Like, what
Yeah.
do you mean you don't want to be like your mom? Like,
Of
I
course
get
you
it.
do. Yeah.
But it has been so supportive to have like you hold that space for me to explore that, because it can be
Yes.
really damaging to have those awarenesses about
Hmm.
that awareness rather around your own, like yourself, and
Yeah,
not have somebody hold you in love in that,
totally.
because we
Yeah.
can be so hard on ourselves, like, and that can
Yeah,
be really damaging. We can tear ourselves down and we'll never get back up. So
totally. Well, I think one of the things I noticed with moms and with you is that the when we have space held for us too, and I think that's part of like healing the mother wound, and that's a lot of the work that I am doing with women in terms of the space that I hold, is that it shifts the way that we can space hold for our children in the
Yeah.
home. Yeah, and it's always really beautiful to witness. And you're right, it does. It takes time. Like it's a bit of a dance and it
Well, I
takes
think it
time.
comes back to what I said in the beginning, like, who's got
Hmm.
me? Like I
Exactly.
was feeling like I was drowning in it all. And
Yeah.
as soon as I felt held in all of this, it allowed me the capacity to like really take care of
Hmm.
myself enough to show up ready and
Hmm.
available for her because
Yeah.
and I'm not doing it perfectly by any means. You should have seen this morning. It was not good together.
Yeah. Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
but it like
Yeah.
I did, yeah, but it's shifting,
Yeah, for
and that
sure.
heals. That's healing. Like when we start to show up differently
Hmm.
in our nervous system, it's healing. Like it
Yeah.
heals. Like
Absolutely.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I'm just remembering that. And this is very often when women step into my containers too. We're doing, initially like a lot of really deep kind of like cellular release through the Akashic records. We're clearing out a lot of that crud, but also it's foundational in terms of like, we looked at finding the space for you too, so that you could actually deepen into more of that foundation. And it started to build your capacity in a different way. And that took a little bit of time too.
And my
But
intuition and trusting,
yes.
because there's so much outside of me right now, and every mother, I imagine, that
Yes,
says, do it
absolutely.
this way. Oh no, you should do it. That's wrong. And I think if we are in true alignment with who we
Hmm.
are, we know what's best for our children. If we're in true alignment, if we're
Yeah.
clear of all of those belief systems and not all of them, we can't possibly go there, but that we're working on that and we can get more and more clear as to like how to
Hmm.
move forward and show up and trust our intuition, you know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, like I think that comes for me, like the way that the lens that I see it through is like authentic leadership for women. It's like a true
Mhm.
connection to self beyond the programming, and
Yeah.
being able to identify what truly works for us in the scope of how we want to lead our lives forward, and how we're holding the matrix of our family and our connection to our children. So I love that you brought that forward. That's
Mm.
beautiful. I want
Mm.
to swing it back to the Akashic records. I just have like one maybe last question, because I know that sometimes when women find the Akashic records, they don't necessarily feel, I know sometimes the Akashic records can seem quite mysterious and like hard. So yeah, so can you share a little bit about, and I think maybe they did feel a little bit like that for you, but just like what your process was, because now you take the Akashic records and, we were chatting about this the other day, how they just like bring tears to your eyes. But I mean,
Mm.
the work that you're facilitating with the Akashic records is so beautiful, and there's a real flow to it now.
Yeah, I think well at the beginning I think again it comes back to like getting clear, right?
Mm.
And I was working with you at the time too. I still am, but like
Yeah.
clearing and being held and working on myself and then diving into the Akashic records for myself was like gritty. Like it was like, oh, like what's happening? I don't even understand what's happening. Like it's hard to get those clear messages when you're doing it
Yes.
yourself. So I found so much value in our, in our connection and working together as I was learning. But yeah, once I started to really trust myself, trust the messages coming in and how they're coming in, like different sensations or like visuals or whatever it is. I, it's so powerful working with people, like, and just seeing, like, sometimes I find and this is not maybe not good, but like, I'll be in a session with someone and she is it's so she's moved like so much by something that comes through, some wisdom that comes through that she
Yeah.
was brought to tears.
Yeah.
And then I smile. I'm like, but I'm not smiling in a way that I'm like in awe. Like I am
Yeah.
in
Like the
awe.
beauty of like, yes,
The
like the
wisdom, like,
witness. Yeah.
and to witness, like, and then
Yes.
I'm here and I'm just so grateful. And I say to them, like, I'm sorry, I'm not laughing. Like, I'm not, this isn't funny.
Yeah.
I'm just
It's
in
just so
total
beautiful
awe.
to witness. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
it's gratitude a little bit too, just like, wow, like I can
yeah,
be a
like,
part of like
thank
this
you.
process. Yeah. No, yeah, it's
And
very
then
deep.
to have your work that just validates, where you're at and the impact that this can have on somebody's life. Like it can be so
Mhm.
transformative for them. And yeah, it's what were we
Beautiful.
talking about? Just like,
The
yeah,
Akashic records, and just in terms of like how they can seem a little bit mysterious and
great.
daunting
Yeah.
sometimes, but that and you were saying you felt some of that too, and but you had to clear out some of like the crud or whatever, but once you got the flow of it
Yeah.
or
Once
the
I got
mechanics of it, maybe, it really started to drop in for you. I'm putting words into your mouth,
yeah,
but
no, it did. And then and I find that people are really responsive to it too. Like they're like, yes, this is something I need in my life. I want to work with you. So it
Mhm.
really, once I anchored and dropped into it and found some ease in working in the records, which I mean it is really easeful, but
Mhm.
um yeah, I just started to flow. Just started to
Yeah, it just takes a few practice sessions and then, a couple more. And I find it doesn't take long. And oftentimes when women start working with the Akashic records, facilitating the work for others, it really doesn't. But there's that like little bit of like that learning curve with
oh,
the practice sessions.
what I
Yeah.
want to say is that because it was so gritty for me, like as I was doing my own, I was really
Hmm.
reluctant to do it for somebody else.
Hmm.
But when I did, it was so different. It was so different.
Yeah, it often
So
is.
to
That's
anybody
true.
who's like terrified, and maybe somebody's watching this who is
Yeah.
going through the certification or thinking about it or
Yeah.
already done it and still hasn't done their first session, like,
Yeah,
oh my
totally. Yeah.
gosh, it's so different, you
Yeah.
know? We could
Yeah,
get,
we say that a lot. Like even, with some of the women will kind of, maybe have a little bit more of a background with like, intuitive healing. So they, they can take it and they'll jump right in and some kind of dabble on the edge. And we talk about that in like our group chats, kind of like
yeah.
just facilitate the session and it's, just move through it and it's going to give you a totally different experience of how, how to embody the process.
Yeah, you're not lying. I remember hearing that. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna do it. And it
Yeah,
really, really
totally.
is. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Well, thank you for joining me. I know we're coming to the close of our time together, but one thing I want to mention that I know from you is that you're very inspired to really show women how to live from an empowered place. And so I'm just wanting to check in to see if there's just like any last or final just shares or words of inspiration that you want to share with the
You
listeners.
didn't tell me you're gonna ask me this.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm
I
like, well,
often will end with a question like this too. That's
yeah.
true. If there
Um,
isn't anything though, that's okay. But I think, just pulling from your own journey because, bringing through Tilly Rose and really kind of like trusting yourself in terms of like, I really want to follow this path in my, like with the Ayurvedic work and the
yeah.
and yoga and the Akashic records, like it was kind of like a lot, but you really trusted yourself to pull that all together and then birth like Tilly Rose, like even anything around there in terms of,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think the most valuable notion for me, or just something to think about, I guess, is just um, it's really just about coming home and remembering who we are, right? And
Hmm.
so everything that we do in life, is it bringing us closer home, like back home, or
Mm-hmm.
it like is it taking us away from that?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's taking us and leading us towards ourselves, that's a yes. Like, yes, I'm
Mm.
going that way. Totally.
That's
And if it
beautiful.
isn't, it's like, nope. It like you can feel it. Like it's
Yeah.
visceral. It's visceral. So yeah,
Yeah.
is it leading you home or is it taking you astray?
Wow. That
Mhm.
was beautiful.
Ah, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Oh, well, it was such a pleasure. And I'm so happy we had this time together again.
Thank you for
And
having me.
you're so welcome. All right. So I will be back next week with another conversation. And
Ooh,
until then, take care. Talk to you
okay.
soon.
Bye.